For those of you who have logged in today, we will be giving about a minute or two for everyone else to log in. Welcome to today's webinar. Again, it'll be about a minute or two until we start our presentation. Meantime, you can look on your screen. You'll see who our panelists are today. They will be giving an introduction as we begin, but you can start by sort of reading through who our panelists are already.
We're at 50 right now.
So thank you to those of you who have already logged on. We'll be giving it another minute to allow other folks to log on, and then we will begin our program. I'd like to welcome those of you who have already logged on. We are waiting for a few more folks to log on to today's webinar. Meantime, you can see who your panelists are on the screen in front of you.
Susan, there's a message in the Q&A down there about notes.
So thank you to whoever, Zach, I guess, Zach, you asked, will notes be provided post-meeting or should we take notes ourselves? So to answer that question, there will not be notes provided. However, this webinar is being recorded and you can watch it again on www.servicescouts.com, where we have our previous webinars as well. So if you would like to see this again, or you want to revisit a topic or look at the slides that our presenters are going to present today, then they'll be available to you after today on servicescouts.com. There's a actual section that says webinars. You'll be able to find it there. Thank you for the feedback.
Looks like we've evened out right now. I'd say let's start her up.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We're really, really glad you're here. My name is Susan Danielik. I'll be your moderator today. I am the Director of Guest Experience at Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida, home of the Stanley Cup champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. So today's webinar is called Reopening What We've Learned. Our panelists who have joined us today have all reopened their venues in one way or another, and they're here to give us their lessons that they've learned, what they did right, what they did that might not be so right that we can all take away today. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves briefly. And why don't we start with you, Jim?
Oh, thank you, Susan and Jay and all our panelists and those of you that have logged on. This webcast was inspired by one of our clients, Bjorn Westland and Aaron Shapiro with Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. And in a call that we had weeks ago, they asked, what is everybody learning? What is happening with the venues that have opened? And I thought this would be a great opportunity to share. As everyone knows, our industry is probably the hardest hit in the world. And pulling together and sharing best practices and ideas help each other. And so we're all colleagues, and I just want to thank everyone in advance for participating or being a panelist. If you'd like to be a future panelist, we're planning another one maybe after the holiday. So thank you, Susan.
Absolutely. Anthony, would you please go next?
Thanks, Susan. Hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Mozzicato. I'm the Director of Guest Experience for Hard Rock Stadium, home to the Dolphins, Miami Hurricanes, Miami Open Tennis Tournament, other major events, and the soon-to-be national championship football game. So we're staying actually pretty busy during this time. Been with the organization for 4.5 years prior to the Dolphins. I had a stint with the Royals, Sporting KC, FIU, and Florida Gulf Coast University. Look forward to sharing our key learnings from our last few months with you guys.
Thank you, Anthony. Sarah, would you like to go next, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Susan. My name is Sarah Mathis. I am the Director of Fan Experience with the Jacksonville Jaguars at TIAA Bank Field. We also oversee Daly's Place Amphitheater. This is my 12th season with the team, but as everyone can imagine, this season truly has been like unlike any other, and there's been a lot of new learnings in almost everyone's a rookie year.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Darren, would you please go next?
Sure, thank you. So I'm the general manager of Reed Arena here on the beautiful campus of Texas A&M University, and we're thrilled to be able to actually have events here on campus. We've been hosting them across a variety of our venues. I've been with the university about 9 months, so if you do the math, that was about starting a job about 30 days before we shut everything down. So I have not only moved to a new market, started a new job, but then also had to figure out how to navigate COVID all in about a 60-day period there. So, but I'm excited to visit with everybody today, and hopefully we can share some useful information to the group.
Thank you so much, Darren. Joshua, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Field. I'm the Senior Director of Operations with WESS. For those of you who might not be familiar with WESS, we provide a full array of event staffing and crowd management services, ushers, ticket takers, guest services, security staffing, to a variety of venues in large-scale events nationwide. In my current role, I provide support to our regional directors and local account managers who are servicing our clients out in the field. And then additionally, I work and collaborate with clients on special projects when we're looking for some creative solutions or kind of areas that we can have large impacts and maybe changing some of the norms of the event operating procedure and event staffing services at their facilities.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And we're going to round our panel out today with a very unique product that they're bringing to our attention today with Joey and Junaith.
Joey, go ahead. If you want to introduce.
Hello, I'm Joey Mares, the owner and inventor of Peep No More, which where I've created occupancy indicators for public restroom stalls that you can see from a far distance. So right when you walk into the restroom, you can quickly and easily identify the vacant stalls without having to bend over and look for feet or push on the doors or pull on the locks. And we created these in order to make people feel safe and secure and move people quicker through the restrooms.
Hi, I'm Junaith. I'm the CEO and founder of Zan Compute. Thank you for having us today. And in addition to our AI product that focuses on data-driven cleaning, we've launched a lot of new features that is COVID related to help you effectively clean your facilities during these COVID days, right? We'll talk some more when we present.
Thank you both so much. So before we get started, I'll just remind our audience that if you have any questions, please use your chat feature, and I will present those questions at the end in a short question and answer session. So without further ado, let's get started. And how about we start with Anthony. Anthony, at Hard Rock Stadium, what have we learned? Anthony, if you're there, we cannot hear you.
Of course, I'm that guy now. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you. So just wanted to share, our key learnings through our events that we've had here over the last several months that, like most of you, took a lot of hard work to prepare for. So from our social distancing plan, we learned a lot. We've been lucky to have recap meetings with the National Football League almost after every home game to share our recap and our learnings that becomes league-wide learnings for everyone so we can all help each other out as well. So the first thing that we learned immediately after our first home game was we need to increase our fan communication, not necessarily for our members, but for our single game buyers. Members may sell their tickets or may transfer their tickets, or a single game buyer may purchase tickets online as well. So, 5 tips for the best game day experience. From our end, we shared 5 tips for a successful game day experience. Number 1, focusing on the face mask requirement and defining that more in depth, knowing that that's the number 1 challenge that, we had and continue to have, until now. 2 is just promoting our staggered entry process that was a new feature this year, not only for our games, but for all major events. So just promoting that and how that works. 3 is just reminding guests and members about our mobile ticketing adoption and how they can load their tickets and how they can use their or view a tutorial on that. And then 4 is no tailgating. We made that change. It's worked well. And so just promoting that, making sure everyone is aware that we don't allow tailgating prior to even coming to the stadium, so you're not caught off guard. And then 5 is promoting the in-seat mobile ordering process, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well. We continue to send a game day guide to all of our members and single game buyers that we have emails for that purchase tickets, through Ticketmaster or that are for non-firm member. So in that process, we include more about their entry, the Dolphins app, parking, mobile ticketing, our new guidelines, but also continue to push, the gate entry time and the actual game event timeline as well. And then we also include our stadium updates and safety procedures, getting into no tailgates, cashless experience, mask required, mobile tickets, contactless entry through our new metal detectors, no smoking, which is a new policy we changed this year, and really just using visuals and more information on explaining that, even something as saying no fan signs this year. So just really pushing a lot of those safety and stadium updates in advance. From a parking standpoint, we've learned that, enforcing no tailgating and loitering has gone fairly well. The actual gate entry time slots that we've created has actually helped us in a lot of ways. We number 1, we changed our parking lot times to open at the same time as our stadium gate time. So for example, 1 o'clock game, gates and parking open 11 o'clock as well together, which is something new for us. We've had a smooth ingress experience. One of the things that we've done is we've put a task of staff out there, almost like a task force of guest experience, parking, WESS security services, and Miami-Dade police, in which parking directs the car into directional parking. Guest experience greets the car and the guests at the window, letting them know about the mask requirement, no tailgating, and to also check their gate ticket for entry time, and to make sure they have their tickets ready since they're digital as well. But roughly, we've learned that, that it's worked really well for us, and that by having this extra staff out there, which was taking a little bit of time to adapt to the policies and how to communicate, they're doing a great job out there. Our peak arrival time has actually been moved earlier for guests, to go into the stadium, and we are allowing guests to stay in their vehicles as long as the vehicles are closed to partake in a private group setting if they want to have some food and drinks, as long as they don't come out of their vehicle or open up their windows or their back of their trunk, whatever that they would usually tailgate with. Gate entry process, just wanted to show you, how we're communicating the gate entry times in addition to staff, but visual boards. We have 9 visual boards, around the actual perimeter of our stadium. You can see how we're socially distancing guests, here every other gate with social distancing markers, closing down lanes, updated prohibited items, and policy signs, assumption of risk signs. So there's quite a few different signs, things you have to factor in coming back that relate to your changes in policies. And then you can also see where we're utilizing every other turnstile and blocking off, or we're basically killing every other turnstile for guests to not use. So you can see how much space there is here in a social distancing setting for guests to go in through the metal detector and scan their tickets. Again, time entry has helped us get more guests inside the stadium, which has actually contributed to an increase in per cap in concessions. We did invest in newer model CHEA metal detectors, which has allowed us to have a quick entry process, and contactless, where guests don't have to divest as they go through. And we've now, because of seeing how short the wait times are for each game, which has basically been 0, we've actually recently decided to decrease the number of shoots just to adapt to that setting. But we still have more than anybody else, most likely, because that's just how we roll. It's important to catch prohibited items, prohibited types of masks prior to guests entering the stadium. So we've been focusing more on that at the gates, and then also to have free disposable masks available at gate entries to provide to guests if their mask does not comply. That's something that we've done recently. That's gone really well. And then the seating bowl, just wanted to show you, what our seating bowl looks like with social distancing setting. One of the main things we learn is from a seating pod integrity standpoint, guests will try to rip seat covers off during the game so they can sit with other people. We actually had to eject a group of guests this past Sunday for doing so. And then when guests or members or individual single game buyers resell their tickets, they're not necessarily worried about selling their tickets, in the same amount of tickets that they own. They might split them up just to sell them, which creates a problem for us because then you have, for example, a seat pod of 4 seats with 2 and 2 sitting with each other. They don't know each other. They're strangers. They don't feel comfortable sitting with each other. So that creates a problem where you have to relocate guests and actually follow up with the actual member or single game buyer to let them know that's against their policy, for safety reasons. And then in addition, we've had to have our ticket ops team and guest experience team in between all major events come to the stadium and do a constant check of the manifest and seat covers to make sure they're aligned with their logos, which is the Hard Rock Stadium logos in between events, because people are moving them, they're putting their feet on them. And it takes some effort to adjust those seat covers in between events to make sure not only the manifest is right, but the seat covers look presentable as well. Just a couple of things I wanted to point out with mask enforcement. We decided after the first couple of games to, have our ushers more on a roaming approach, not stationary. They should be moving at all times, being visible at all times. We actually, we're fortunate enough to amplify the amount of resources with our WESS SRT special response team to help double up in the bombs and bowl to roam as well. We actually started off in an educational manner, educating guests, but after the second and third game, we switched to be more direct earlier in the game with code of conduct cards, with warning cards and ejections, which has helped us, limit the number of ejections, maybe not overall, but not as much later in the game. It's, it's being addressed earlier in the game, which is helping us have a better, smoother experience for the rest of the game. We had to revise our code of conduct signage and videos to incorporate mask and social distancing. We incorporated video board images with PA reads during the game as well. Suites continue to be a challenge. We did add a stationary image on TV screens and put some signs in each suite to promote wearing masks even when you're in a suite. You can see here in the picture, just utilizing a player wearing their mask, and that's how we're promoting it, unless eating or drinking in an assigned seat or dining area table. You can see our ushers paddleboard here that they use to show the guests to help with not having to scream across the whole section. And then down below is just showing you one of our ribbon board images that we use to promote wear your mask throughout the game. And then here's some additional in-stadium entertainment graphics, just more about protecting the team, wearing your mask, stick with your team, social distancing, 2 yards can change the game. And then just some other policies and procedures that we put in place to help, enforce our COVID guidelines. From an F&B and retail standpoint, we've gone cashless. We decided not to go with reverse ATMs. We have several team store locations where you convert cash into gift cards, Visa gift cards. But believe it or not, they've barely been used, which is a positive thing. That means people are comfortable not bringing cash. So we have seen a really good, high adoption of mobile ordering. We did put a lot of work into it. It's helped us increase our per cap. We did have to simplify the menu offerings, which is probably a common theme in the sports industry now, not having maybe the most variety of concessions, but there's a reason for that, to simplify offerings and simplified speed of service. We did make some adjustments after a few home games where we actually took away a few mobile ordering stations and went to more traditional stands. And that was us being proactive just in case the mobile ordering system went down, that we had enough to facilitate traditional concessions. And we promoted to guests by using the video board. We have seating pod stickers with QR codes so guests can pull it up, concourse signs with QR codes as well. You can see to the right, just how we promote it on the video board during the games. We did decide to remove popcorn from the menu just because, there's several other NFL teams that did that, and we decided to go with it as well, just to help with the mask policy. People were taking advantage of not having to wear a mask and by eating popcorn nice and slow as well. In addition, we have floor markers out at concession stands, but we actually extended it out more, removed some concourse furniture even more, because once your floor markers are gone, people tend to not socially distance now and bunch up. So the farthest you can go out with it without impacting the rest of your flow is a good thing. So I would definitely advise that. And we did add more merchandise stands for mobile pickup orders on each level as well. Some other key learnings, our departure egress plan seating in our seating bowl is not the easiest to control. We promote that our ushers will release guests row by row, but by the time the game is ending or about to end, guests are already getting up to move. So it's not the easiest to control. Post-game player tunnel and field interview movements, depending on who wins and where the teams are going out of the tunnel, you're going to want to make sure you have a staffing plan to maintain social distancing and to not allow guests to flock to those areas, because it goes against the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here. Our new smoking policy has been well received and complied by 99.9% of our guests. Although we built outdoor media areas similar to our recent Super Bowl that we had, we've learned that the media prefers to still utilize the indoor seating instead. And then last but not least, we've had 0 guests report any symptoms during games. We do have 2 isolation areas, one for guests, one for staff. And I am happy to report they have not been used at this point halfway through the season. And here you can see some cool pictures of our staff, just in their game day uniform, ready to go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Anthony. That was a great presentation. I know I certainly learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has too. If you do have questions for Anthony, please put them in the chat feature of this webinar and we'll ask at the end. Next up, we have Sarah. Sarah, what can you tell us you've learned about the guest experience? Oh, muted.
Making sure I'm sharing my computer sound, because I do have an awesome little video I want to share with everyone. All right. Susan, can you confirm? Can you see this?
We can see it. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So with our stadium, we actually hosted, starting in June, a few graduations at our stadium. So we kind of started with some smaller events and worked our way up into having, obviously, our first NFL kickoff game in September. So since Anthony did such an amazing job kind of going through the fan experience side, I wanted to focus a little bit on what our staff experience was like and the things that we have done and what we found to be successful. So the first thing was, when the quarantine started, we really wanted to stay connected with all of our game day team members, right? So we started off doing phone check-ins, just, hey, how are things going? How are you doing? And that's something that we continued in April and in May and in June. In June, we actually sent out handwritten cards to all of our team members, just to make sure that they know that they're feeling appreciated and that we really, really cannot wait to get them back into the stadium. And then we also hosted monthly virtual check-ins, and this was, we gave a couple different times and sent it out to our game day staff, and it was kind of like a Q&A that they asked, hey, how are things going? And while we still didn't have a lot of answers, they really appreciated us being really transparent on how things are going, on what progress that we made, that we're really taking the health and safety aspect of it very seriously, and keeping them kind of in the loop. And I know that our returning team members really, really appreciated that. And I do think that that helped with keeping having more staff feeling comfortable to come into the stadium and to work for us this season. The other thing is recruitment of new staff members during quarantine. We had no idea what the season was going to look like, but we wanted to be prepared. So we actually continued with our normal recruitment of team members, and we hosted virtual interviews, virtual meet and greets. But you go through the process of interviewing someone, you realize, hey, you're perfect, you could be an amazing addition to our team, but then your HR department tells you that you're on a hiring freeze and you can't hire anyone. So we really want to keep those people engaged, because we didn't want us to have the interview and then not talk to them for months until we figure things out. So we actually scheduled virtual meet and greets with some of our potential team members, just to, again, keep them updated on how things were going and what things were trending like, and what they could expect from us from a communication standpoint moving forward. So that was something that was really, really effective for us. And I definitely recommend that everyone try to stay as connected as you can with your team members. Even if you don't have the answers, they just appreciate being kept in the loop. And then when it comes to communication education, once we got to the point, hey, we are going to have fans in the stadium, not sure to what extent, but it looks like we're going to have fans. We're definitely going to need some staff. Development of your virtual trainings. And with the virtual trainings, there's a million different platforms. There's a million different opportunities. So definitely recommend you do your research and check out what's going to work best for your venue and for your needs. And we actually assigned one of our team members. I put them this was specifically their project. So having someone take ownership of it. And we really wanted to make it fun and interactive, because for our philosophy is that we actually have a member of the Jaguars fan experience team attend every single partner training, and we do a little presentation that we call our service philosophy training, and really wanted to get them engaged. So we wanted to make sure that our team members felt connected to us, even if they were far away. So we brought in like some of our own family and really made it as fun and interactive as possible, adding quizzes after each module. We introduced our new service philosophy, which coincidentally was wave. So it worked out really perfectly, because we've been doing a lot of waving at the stadium. And then making sure that they know what their responsibilities are going to be moving forward. The NFL had several different things within the stadium preparedness guidelines that we wanted to make sure that our staff knew what to expect when they came back into the stadium. Keeping that in mind, we knew that there was a need for people to be able to give good directions, yet we couldn't let anyone inside the stadium. In fact, some of our team couldn't even get into the stadium. So we had one of our team members get the clearance and do a virtual stadium tour. And it went over really, really well. And some people felt like that they got a better experience on that 30-minute virtual tour than they would have actually walking around the stadium themselves. So making sure that you're thinking about that and being proactive, because those things take time. So make sure you're working on some of that stuff now, knowing that everything kind of is subject to change and things may be adjusted, but helping as many people as possible to get that experience. And then we were making our transition over to virtual briefings. So in order to maintain physical distancing, as well as give everyone time for our new entry procedures and protocols that the staff had to go through, we transitioned to virtual briefings. And that's something that has worked really well, because we film it, we send it out to our team members, they get enrolled in that training module, and then they are required to watch it before every game. And what we found was actually really helpful is, because sometimes you have a team member who might be coming in late, or you got lost or something like that. Now everyone is getting the exact same briefing, and we're making sure everyone's getting the information. Let me see if I can get this to work real quick. I really hope so. Oh, here we go. And here's our video we have on.
Smile. That's a verb, meaning smiling with your eyes. Smiles.
What the hell is schmize?
Smize is smiling with your eyes. Smize! 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 Smize!
So that was something that was actually shot on an iPhone in the middle of quarantine. So we were able to get a little creative. And since we did have a few different events, we were able to actually feature some of our real team members wearing their masks and smizing. And so it is well known throughout TIAA Bankfield. As you're walking around, everyone's like, hey, let me see you smize. And it's just been a fun thing that we have created in our game day experience for our staff. Getting back to that communication and education of our staff, we really wanted our staff to remember that obviously their health and safety is our priority, and that we've put a lot of different things in place in order for them to be set up for success. So we put together a whole know before you go communication, which was really tailored towards a video actually that was really tailored towards the guests, but the staff really appreciated seeing what world they were gonna be going into. Educating them about our mask policy, about having a limited capacity, physical distancing. We went to completely cashless. We went smoke-free, getting them up to speed on the health and safety protocols, because everyone's comfort level right now is different, right? So it's important to make sure that you provide them with all of the information, and then they get to make the decision whether they feel comfortable coming back and being a part of your team. Another thing that we definitely recommend is taking advantage of the resources that you might have available in your specific area. So with not having events at the other venues in Jacksonville, and the NFL requires for all of our staff, they have to go through a health screening and a temperature screening before entering the stadium on game day. And as you can imagine, being in Florida, we had a lot of concerns about what that experience would be like for our staff who are potentially going from their car to coming in and then going through. So we were very fortunate. We were able to utilize the arena that is literally walking distance from our stadium. And that's where we have our team members, they get a text message on game day. They fill that out. If they are past the screening, they get a QR code that then they present at the arena. They get their temperature scanned. And then we actually have our staff, some of our partners doing some check-ins and some briefings and some other uniform distribution at the arena. And we found it's actually a much more effective entry check-in process than what we had at the stadium. So it's really, really worked well for us and has been really helpful. The staff experience. So going back to making them feel comfortable, we were very, very passionate about making obviously the health and safety of our staff, our number one priority. So we provided adjustable branded face masks to all of our stadium staff. We wanted everyone to have that cohesive look. And then we also obviously had the disposable masks and face shields available at all of our gates and all of our guest services booths. We enhanced our cleaning service with a certified disinfection specialist role. You'll see there's a picture there of one of our team members who has a very, very visible cart. You'll see some of the signage there as well. But again, making our team members feel comfortable and knowing the level that we're taking safety to and sanitation to. We provided obviously hand sanitizers for all our guests, but we also did individual little hand sanitizers for all of our team members. And that was something we wanted them to have it on their person, that they didn't have to go looking for it on game day. So as you're looking at your staff returning, overall, what we found is our staff are so excited to get back to the stadium. We have a lot of extroverts who like interacting with people. So getting them out of their houses and into an environment that they got to see people, and even if you're just waving and smizing, you're still interacting with other people. But thinking about all of the adjustments that you're going to have to make about your attendance policy, whereas before we were very, very strict. You can't make it to all of our home games. Like I don't want to say there's penalties, but we were really, really strict about everyone making it to every home game. Now it's like, if you are not feeling good at all, please stay home. Don't even come close. So we've really obviously created a much more flexible attendance policy. Clocking in and out, we've made that remote, and that's worked really, really well. Our staff now are able to purchase food from concessions, and we found that instead of sending everyone to like a designated specific break area to purchase food, by scattering it around the stadium, it created for more physical distancing. We expanded and added on a few different break areas, just identifying some, I say dead spaces, but underutilized spaces within the stadium. We limited the number of staff in our guest services booths. And we've actually, although we're only at 25% capacity for our fans, we still have about 75% of our typical staffing levels, and some games it's even above that. We've limited our giveaways. For our fans, it's all in the cup holder, so we don't have staff actually or volunteers out there passing things out. And then changing our checkout operations. Obviously, we're having to change the locations and things like that that have actually gone really well for us. last piece I really want to touch on is recognition, because now you have people who have decided, okay, I feel comfortable coming to the stadium based on what you're providing me, but we got to keep them coming back, right? We need those team members, especially who have experience, and we know the ones that are showing up, just like the fans that are showing up, these are our most dedicated team members and most committed team members. So we really wanted to make them feel appreciated. So we continued with our recognition programs, although we had to make a few tweaks, but overall, we're still doing the things to make them feel appreciated. And instead of doing, typically we would do a couple surprise and delights sprinkled throughout the season. We're doing it after before every single game this season. So keeping the excitement, showing our appreciation, whether that's having our management team do a video. We have sweet treats like this Sunday. We're actually giving out little Rice Krispie treats that have little cute designs on it that was made from a local bakery. So it's those little things, keeping our staff excited and making them feel appreciated. And then for our supervisors, because again, they've been doing so much, and we've asked so much more of them this season than we've asked of any other season. So making them feel appreciated, but making sure everything is done in a safe way. So we actually did these really nice charcuterie boards for our supervisors, and we did a drive-through on this past Tuesday, and they were able to come through. We were able to wave, say hi, pass it to them. They could pick it up, and again, making sure that we are keeping everyone safe, but making sure they feel appreciated for the efforts that they're putting in, because a lot of people have made a lot of sacrifices to be here with us on game days. And again, ending it all with, we are one team. So it's really, really important that you make your team members feel appreciated, regardless of what company partner they're working for, that you all are working together as one team and really showing appreciation for everyone's role. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Sarah. I know you put a smile on my face. I'm sure you did, everyone on this call today. Thank you. Darren, what have we learned? You're muted, sir. Darren, I'm afraid you're muted. There we go. Well, it muted again, sir.
Why is it not?
We can hear you now. Oh, nope, it just went away again.
How about now?
Now, there you are.
Thank you. All right, fantastic. So where Anthony and Sarah were talking about the staff and the public's kind of journey back to doing events, I want to focus a little bit on what the facility side, what we've been doing here at Texas A&M. So let me show you what I've got here. Hold on one second. So Texas A&M, we've got a variety of venues to choose from here. We're fortunate enough to be able to do anywhere between 25 and 35% of the venues we've got across the campus. For us, that's almost 25,000 people at our football games. So we dove in pretty deep, all the way back the beginning of September when we started doing those kind of numbers in our stadiums. So we've learned quite a bit through that. Most of us are working on our pod systems across the country and what's that going to look like as we roll into coming back into events. We're no different. One of the things we have struggled with is doing that podded system in some sort of a general mission environment. For example, our volleyball games are some sections are reserved, some sections are general mission. And so any event that you've got coming up that would be a general mission scenario, that's become a little bit of a challenge for us in that we're alternating every other row and blocking those rows off. But when you get into those individual rows, how are you separating those folks on the seated rows? And so we came up with some pod systems of just generalizing in sections of 2, but found, just like Anthony did, that people were removing our banding because they came in different sets of 4s and 6s. And so we basically have gone away from that, or really just relying on through communication and alerts from our ushers to encourage social distancing on the roads itself. That's kind of how we're addressing the general mission scenario. From a COVID mitigation standpoint, we're fortunate here at Texas A&M to have an epidemiologist on campus, and so we've gotten a lot of guidance from them, but I've learned more about filtration and humidity and temperatures and things that I didn't know a lot of before I started working in the COVID environment, but have now become pretty familiar with a lot of that. And then again, fortunate testing-wise, we've created, you've heard the bubble term, the bubble concept. we've created a lot of bubbles around our different varying sports. We have 3 sports that are here in Reed Arena, and each of those sports are operating in their isolated bubbles, even within the venue. So a lot of testing surrounding that, random and scheduled testing for all of our athletic staff. So a lot of effort's gone into that. And then cleaning and sanitization, like many of us have leagues or conferences that are going to dictate a lot of that to us. We're no different with the SEC giving us guidance on that. Much like Sarah talked about, we've tried to make our cleaning staff as visual as possible, and as where cleaning used to be a back of house, kind of out of sight, out of mind function. It's definitely a front of house thing now. Fans want to see it. They want to understand what you're doing, and they feel more comfortable when they're seeing those folks actively cleaning during the game. So much so that during basketball games on timeouts, we'll have our cleaning staff walk down the aisles and actually wipe down handrails and things in the aisles actively during a timeout, so that the fans can see that actually happening. So they're assuming it's happening, and if they're seeing it, they know it's happening in other areas of the building. And then also something else we've done, we've gotten really creative with some technology and innovation. That's one thing I wanted to talk about. So we have implemented a drone technology here at Texas A&M. Right now, we're only using indoors. We could use it outdoors in our stadium and soccer fields and baseball stadiums, but we're so close to an airport, we're a little bit limited in that ability. But indoors for Reed, we've successfully implemented a drone strategy here that allows us to be able to clean and sanitize 13,000 seats in just a couple hours. And it's a process that we've really come to like, and hopefully it'll be successful and something that other venues across the country can implement and take on. But for us, it's eliminated a lot of staffing efforts. Even with backpack sprayers and things, we were at that 4 to 5 hour range. We can clean the entire facility in just a couple hours, including charging time with backup batteries and things. So this instrument, this drone tool from Lucid Drone Technologies, has been extremely, extremely helpful for us and it's also garnered us a lot of national attention. We've got interviews even happening today with some of our production staff about this technology and what we're doing with it. Drive-in events. Many of you heard and talked about drive-in events as kind of the only viable option at the moment right now if you can't do indoor events. We're doing one December 4th for King and Country, and it'll be my first drive-in event ever in my 25-year career. So we learned a lot on our side, and the fans and the guests, it'll be a lot of times it's going to be the first time they've ever come. So if you ever choose to do one of these, take that into consideration. The uncertainty or unknowns from both the guest side and your staff side. We've run into a bunch of things as we're planning this event that we needed to think through regarding sight lines and other unique aspects. But the emphasis on this point is you cannot over communicate enough. We did a lot of front end communication with the fans as they were getting ready to buy tickets. And then on site, we're planning to do additional through signage and even handouts as they arrive on site with things that they can and cannot do. Because they're expecting it to be like a normal concert experience, and it's not going to be anything like that. It's completely different and unique. And then just a few last takeaways. You know, this environment has caused all of us to rethink how we do everything from budgeting to marketing to operations to staffing, everything. Just every part of your business, you've got to really sit down and think through it. You know, Sarah has really done a great job talking about how you really need to focus on your staff as much as you do as your guests. It's an inward and an outward effort. You've got to take care of both sides. Vendor partners are super, super helpful. You're going to hear from Josh in a minute that, you know, keeping them updated on changes in your world and things that are happening is super important. And then on the imagination front, we've tried to be so creative. We've had to get really creative on some of the things ideas we've come up with. There's no bad idea right now in how we can attack and be prepared for how to deal with COVID and keep our guests safe when they're in the building. And then just the last point, and everybody's experiencing this right now, but I'll give you an example of how quickly things are changing even for us. We have a basketball game on Wednesday that I learned about at the middle of last week. So there are things that are happening, and we got a football game that got rescheduled this Saturday due to COVID issues. So there are things that you know, are happening across our industry that you just have to be able to pivot, shift, and be flexible. So that's my presentation, and look forward to some Q&A here at the end.
Thank you very much for that, Darren. That was very insightful. I want that drone at my house this weekend, please. That sounds
okay, fair enough.
So thank you again for that. In terms of security, we have Joshua here to talk to us. Joshua, take it away. I'm afraid we cannot hear you, Joshua, if you're speaking.
We all talked about it and we all wanted to mute ourselves at the beginning so that you'd get really excited about what we had to say.
All right. Joshua,
There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Sorry about that. That's the trouble of sharing with dual monitors here. So are you seeing returning to events?
We are.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. Because Anthony and Sarah had such presentations prepared to really drill into the staff specific items and some of those game day elements for guests as well as the staff, I was asked to speak a little bit more on some broad topics. As I previously mentioned, WESS being a national provider, we work in a number of facilities. We're lucky to have two of our facilities with Darren and Anthony on this panel with me here today. But the topics that I'm going to be covering are corporate response and planning, some technology integrations and the effects that have on staff, whether it be your WESS being your service provider or any other company out there, and the importance of communication with not only internally with clients, but guests and focusing on staff as well. So one of the first things that WESS did when the pandemic started was we enacted what was called our business continuity plan, pandemic plan. And I'll file the disclaimer here. I'm not here saying that this plan had us 100% prepared for the impact that COVID was going to have on our business and what that would do to our operations nationwide. But what it did is it gave us a very good, solid foundation to pivot and move from. Just like Darren was talking a lot about, of you have to be nimble, you have to be flexible. I think we all know that because we're all in event operations and know what it takes to put on live events. But that having designated communication trees, specialized work groups, and an outline of what resources we had in different departments and around the country really was critical in our success. Our senior leadership really took a step back and focused and said, where can our efforts be most focused to have the largest impact? And that was providing the support out to our regions and out to our field offices, because ultimately those local teams are the ones who were getting prepared to service our clients. Our situation, again, being drastically different in the sense that we were preparing to possibly have to staff events from South Florida to New York to Ohio to Oregon and be prepared and up to date on the different components going into that. And that was a big challenge to begin with. But one of the first things we started doing, which I'm sure many organizations did, was start holding daily, at a minimum weekly, but especially at the start, weekly COVID update calls with our regional leaders, who were ultimately going out and making sure, so we were critically prepared to stay current with all the changes and lockdowns and restrictions that were happening across the country, and adapting and changing our corporate support to those locations, depending on those changes to lockdowns and restrictions. We also did a lot of the safety control plans. Many people on this call did, as well as many other private business out there, with working from homes, work schedule for those who were shift schedules for those who were going to be in an office setting. But really, one of the areas I want to talk about, and Darren and I talked about it again this week, was an area that we felt we were very well prepared. And that was one of our standard operating procedures has always been to cross-train individuals in multiple departments of our company and our operation. And that's not to say that everybody can be a payroll expert or a scheduling expert or an HR expert, but making sure that people understand the basic functions of these other areas. And as I said, that was a best practice we've done internally for a while. in an effort to make sure if we had a management changeover in a market, we would never have a disruption of service to our clients in that market. Of course, COVID gave us the opportunity or the potential that we could not have necessarily a management changeover, but management be in a quarantine situation or worst case scenario in a hospital situation. So we felt we were very, very well prepared in that aspect, but we did continue to kind of expand that program of cross training in the early stages. Unfortunately, this exact situation did happen in one of our larger markets. In a matter of about 48 hours, we had our entire event management team go down, as well as members of the scheduling department, the HR, the recruiting departments as well, all go down with positive results or have to quarantine due to proximity. Because we have had this best practice pre-identified, we were able to really rally corporate resources, get them into the market within 24 to 48 hours of that notice and service our clients. And it was a very, very difficult time and a very realistic scenario happening in front of us, because in this particular market, we had 2 MLS events that were happening that week. We were servicing an NFL client, and we were also servicing a presidential debate. And thankfully, because of this best practice, because of this pre-planning in our operation, we were able to service all of those clients without interruption. Of course, it was a challenge, but a lot of what's happened, and unfortunately what a lot of people talk about, is the negativity right now around COVID. This also gave us internally a good chance to celebrate a win and to celebrate hard work that paid off for us in that planning, as well as then servicing those events. Switching over to a couple of technology integrations. And of course, I know most people on this are going to be familiar with walk-through metal detector technology. And I'll put the disclaimer again, I don't work for CHEA. However, the system that you see here on the screen is one that we use in multiple facilities. This allows these models, especially with the 2B setting or the special event setting, whichever you want to call it, has obviously provides us a lot of throughput and reduces the false positive alerts. Anthony showed us some pictures of the gates from Hard Rock Stadium earlier. As he mentioned, they went out and actually purchased these for the facility at the start of the season, and up until last week, even though we were having 13,000 people in the facility, we were operating 130 walk-through metal detectors for each game. Obviously a very large amount, and it provided us a seamless entry process for the guests. A couple of the areas I want to discuss, which maybe everybody that's outside of the staffing realm, more of a general manager or just in the facility operations, is equipment like this pays you dividends for your staffing provider, whether it be internal staff or external performing functions with these walk-through metal detectors. And that's directly related to the processes and procedures that are put in place to operate these, as well as the reduction in the false positive rates. Utilizing the yo-yo technique at Hard Rock Stadium, our early sample sets of data collection have shown that about 85% of people can come in without alarming or only needing to be yo-yoed once. So it's a really seamless process for those guests entering. And back to the benefits of the lower hit rate as related to the staffing, what we're finding is staff have been more willing to work during COVID because they're not doing the old school techniques where they're having to hand wand a lot of individuals because of false positives that you tend to see with older models. Our staff retention has increased. So the staff are coming back more and more because they feel more comfortable both with the technology, and they feel comfortable working because they know they're not making unnecessary contact with a large number of individuals simply because the technology is hitting on a lot of false positives. And of course, the best one, and from the security perspective, is when we are seeing that we have to go to a secondary screening process, whether it be utilization of a handheld wand or a pat-down procedure, the staff is more attentive because this isn't the 500th time that they've had a false positive test or hit that they have to search. It's few and far between. So they know when the metal detector is going off, there is a large mass that they need to investigate. Signage, Anthony talked a great deal about that messaging that's getting out to their members as well as single game buyers. The signage education from staff positioned prior to them getting to those walkthrough metal detectors is absolutely critical. We like to say that a properly prepared guest will simply experience a hello from our security or a welcome to the stadium rather than an increased security experience in having to yo-yo multiple times or be patted down. Sliding over to another major integration that we've been doing with a number of our clients is operating X-ray machines at facilities. So these we've been leveraging these during regular business days as well as on event days. We've seen that these machines have created a more positive experience with event guests as well as our clients' front office staff. We can all agree that the days of having a security officer rummage through a clear bag, a backpack, a purse, a laptop bag, whether that be on event day or non-event day, is just not feasible anymore. But screening still has to be done for those items. The general feedback we've received both from the guests and staff is they like that the security the security staff is not touching their personal items. At most, you have to really work on getting one of those clear check tags onto that item. They feel safer in general in the stadium, knowing and seeing that this technology is being used to stream, again, both on event day or general office hour days. And it's continuing to create an increased experience with the staff and the guests overall when they're entering the facility. Finding the right staff to operate these is absolutely critical. But what we have found is when you have the right staff, they love working these machines and they love coming into work and the event goes very fast for them. These units that are pictured here are a little bit more advanced than others that you kind of see in the market or maybe have seen at other large special events. But we found the training to be very easy for them. We've developed a couple of decks for that, whether it be for specific facilities or larger events that we've used them at. And the functionality is very intuitive for the staff, so they catch on very quickly. My last comment on this is if you have these in your facility, especially ones that are utilizing this dual plane imaging, this imaging, the imaging that's produced for this is going to make you a favorite amongst your local and federal law enforcement partners, especially here. Our best practice is we have a jump drive that's assigned to each one that's in that machine. And if our security staff come across a device, a potential device, something that just doesn't look right, we can, within a matter of seconds, download that image onto that jump drive, hand that over to our partners in law enforcement, and their bomb units can email it. If they're not on site, the command staff can email that to them, and they can take that picture, start manipulating it through their systems, and start making actionable advise on actual items to take on that. This is something we need to worry about. No, this isn't. This is an inert device. No, this is something we need to worry about. So, like I said, this would make you your venue a favorite one amongst your law enforcement partners. Finally, switching over to a very broad topic that can really be applied on all areas of operation. every venue, every organization needs to be reviewing every piece of messaging that goes to their staff, whether it be pre-event communications, training communications, it just the amount, Sarah, I commend you for the amount of communication you were having with your staff beforehand. I know there were multiple negative news stories about organizations reaching out. Was it enough? Was it not enough? So I commend you and the Jaguars for your efforts on that. And I also love that Dean said you need to, or Darren said you need to focus on the staff as much as you're focusing on the guests. And my final comments on that would be that can't be said any better. Staffing calls are remaining very large for facilities. Sarah's at 75% of her staff call. In most of our facilities that are open to any type of capacity, we're really not seeing over a 20% crowd capacity capability, but we still have 85% of our staffing. So if you really dig into that and go all the way and follow that to your frontline staff and your front line of your operations, the impact that every event staff member can have on your guest is going to be felt exponentially more than outside of our COVID times. So if you're not adequately preparing them with communication, making them feel comfortable, making sure they understand everything that's being done is not just for the guests, but for them, you're really creating a poor experience or an opportunity for those staff members to create a poor experience for the guests inside the venue. Thank you. That's what I have from my presentation. Very broad topics, but look forward to questions as we go through the rest of the panel.
Thank you very much, Joshua. That was a lot of information and good information. If you have questions for Joshua, please put them in the chat feature of this webinar and we'll address those at the end. So next up we have Joey and Junaith, and they have a very unique product to tell us about today. Please.
Thank you, Susan. Let me share my screen. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Let me jump into it. So I'll start with Zan Compute and I'll hand it over to our partner, Peep No More, to talk about their wonderful solution. First of all, thank you all for joining and appreciate the opportunity. Zan Compute is an AI platform company. Our focus is mainly in cleaning, right? Today, what is a manual and reactive process, we're trying to take that and make it more data-driven and proactive, right? We do that not only for restrooms, but also for other open areas as well. And the way we do that is using our sensing and machine learning platform. If you will excuse me, I'm going to switch over to our dashboard here to walk you through our features and also at the same time show you a quick demo. So we install sensors in dispensers like paper towel, toilet paper, trash bins, faucets, flushes, soap dispensers, and so on. These are wireless battery operated sensors that basically converts your existing dispensers to smart dispensers, right? So you don't have to change out anything. We just come in, stick our sensors in there, and suddenly you can track how much paper is left, how much soap is left, so on and so forth, right? So all this data, including traffic, occupancy flow, and so on, comes into our AI platform. And this is the dashboard you will see once you log in. And basically, it's a bird's eye view of things that are happening across, in this case, a specific area in your building, but across your building is the right way to look at it. Which areas need attention? Where do you have to send people in the next 15 to 20 minutes, so on and so forth, are information that are available for you at the tip of your hands, right, the tip of your fingers. And you will be able to monitor this in real time, right, and see how things are changing based on the data coming from the sensors and the AI pushing notifications to you, right? So Once that happens, it not only does that, it also allows you to kind of take care of it operationally. Supervisors or managers can dispatch people to that area, and the system has the capability to detect janitors going in there and cleaning, so on and so forth, and mark it clean. So you'll be able to now understand what happened there, who did we dispatch to go clean that area, how long did it take for them, and was it taken care of properly, right? So it's almost like bringing the operational side of things and the IoT and technology side of things together, right? So if you think that is cool, then once we collect a lot of data over multiple events in your case, or over a period of time, we will be able to bring in data that can quantify a lot of your KPIs, right? How does usage change in your building from one area to the other? And in this case, it could be event driven as well, right? And what is the difference from one area to the other? And how should your schedule look like, right? Where do you have to dispatch people when? And these are all AI driven. So these are how many times do you have to go to an area based on history. The system has learned all this and gives you the recommendation as well, right? In addition, there are a couple of pieces that we focus on. One is more on the staff side of things, right? In terms of what are some of the tasks that the janitors are doing at each visit, right? You'll be able to track those and have records of those in case you need them. This is like a key COVID feature that a lot of our clients are looking for as well. So in addition, as I mentioned earlier, the amount of time spent and the inspections that goes on after that through the supervisors and stuff, how many tasks actually passed and how many failed, all of those are stats that will be available. So it's not just about operational. All I described so far is the operational side of things. We also take care of the fans as well. And the fans, we launched a system called Cleansparency, which is cleaning transparency. Darren touched on this, and it was the way he described it was beautiful, right? How cleaning was a back office operation, and it had to come to the front, right? To make sure that you provide a sense of comfort to people. And that's something we have done it from a technological sense. So seeing janitors are great, but walking up to a QR code, scanning it and understanding when that place was cleaned last and when it was disinfected, when is the next scheduled disinfection, right? All of those are information that can come through our system as well, right? So that goes along with two-way communication. They can provide you feedback, and you can understand not only that an area need attention, but also specifically what fans feel, right? Where the issues, right? For example, a restroom had foul smell, all of those stuff, right? So let me switch back here. There's a lot more to this. In the interest of time, I'm gonna just skim through just to give you an idea of what it is. So from a value proposition perspective, obviously we improve the customer experience, fans experience, we should say, significantly by giving you the data prior to even it becomes an issue or a complaint, and allowing you to reduce complaint, right? And at the same time, you saw that it by giving you the schedule, understanding the usage and so on, it allows you to utilize your workforce properly and reduce material waste, like paper towels being thrown away when it's half full and so on, right? Those are kind of the two big pieces that allows us to provide you the ROI as well. And over time, the system can pay for itself. So that kind of covers the big value proposition. And we are an open platform, so we can push or pull data from any system that's out there. That's what allows us to kind of work with companies like Peep No More. I'm gonna hand it over to Joey to explain her solution and how we play together, right, in the restroom space.
Hello, and thank you all very much for listening to our presentation. I'm Joey Mares, the owner and inventor of Peep No More. And originally when I thought of this idea pre-COVID, I was bending over, me and a woman in front of me, in a busy restroom, and we were looking under what Jerry Seinfeld would call the sad little viewing window into a stall to determine its occupancy, to look for feet or slouched pants. And I just had an aha moment and thought there had to be a better way in order to make people feel safe and secure and to increase efficiency, getting people in and out of bathrooms faster. And our value proposition before COVID was to, allow people to get in and out of the restroom faster and make more money for the facility because they're getting back in their seats, they're getting back to the venue faster, they're happier. But post-COVID, what we found and what I'm finding from new customers is people just aren't feeling any safer in restrooms, and mostly because there's not really very many ways to ensure social distancing or any more touchless environments rather than just the soap dispensers, hand towel dryers, faucets, the traditional things that we've seen. But in addition to people using the restroom stalls, they're also washing their hands 3 times on average as much as normal. So with our occupancy indicators, they're just very simple spring-loaded devices that are attached at the top of the restroom partition, and people can see them instantly when they walk into a busy restroom. You can clearly see all the way down to the end of the lines, whether it's vacant or occupied. And this also ensures a more touchless environment. So a lot of times when people are coming into restrooms, in addition to looking under for feet, which not a lot of people do, they kind of stand there and they'll either push on every single door or they'll pull on the locks, or kids are putting their hands on the ground looking under. And our system just really eliminates that and allows people to just go right to whatever the vacant stall is, touching one stall instead of 10, and just making cleaning practices better and making staff as well as employees, cleaning staff, security, guests, everybody just feel much safer and much cleaner. A taped off bathroom stall or a taped off sink doesn't make people feel that it's professional or well thought out. A lot of times, obviously the bathroom isn't the first impression that a lot of people see, but it is a very lasting impression. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that too. Whether you go to a restaurant or to whatever facility, a lot of times you're going to remember the restrooms and you're going to remember quite a bit of details because it's a very confined space. There's a lot of germs. There's a lot of inability to socially distance. And so what I'm really excited about with partnering with Zan Compute, as you can see with the occupancy kiosks that they've created that go on the outside of the restrooms, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, not only can they add their sensors to the inside of our indicators to tell stall occupancy, where nearest restrooms are to the right or to the left, how far those restrooms are and how many stalls are available there. They're also now able to give total restroom occupancy, which is not really being done anywhere else. And like I said, with mentioning that more people are going into the restrooms to wash their hands 3 times before they eat, after they eat, before they're going on, touching just different things. Social distancing and washing your hands is the biggest way to prevent COVID. And so now you as a facility are able to really limit how many people are in your restrooms in total. And I think that's kind of what's making people feel safe. It's more thought out, it's more planned, it's more civilized, if you will, because now you can even put markers, as is everything else, with 6-foot social distancing at the front of your lines, in addition to the outside of your restrooms, and have people stand there and easily be able to go to, the open stalls. But before they even go into the restroom, you're able to limit how many people are going in there. Our occupancy indicators are very easy to install. They're about a 2-minute installation, and they install with 2 tamper-resistant screws. I'm happy to say we've never had any failures in the last 9 years that we've been in business. They're virtually maintenance-free, very inexpensive. They can come in any stainless steel, standard colors, custom color matches, gold, all sorts of different variations to enhance current restroom design. We're also coming out about by the end of this year, hopefully, with a digital display version. And so for some of our higher end facilities that like the lit version, we are coming out with the help of Xan Compute and their engineers. We're coming out with basically little LCD screens that will be in place of our mechanical version. And they're going to be run off of low energy use batteries as well that last a very long life cycle. So, so again, just another option, but the same exact function as what we currently do. Simple and easy to maintain while just making people feel safe and secure in a professional environment, and just making them feel like the restrooms are just equally as important as the rest of the facility to keep them feeling safe and feeling secure with coming back and using those restrooms multiple times as well as their children.
Thank you, Joey. As you guys can see, we have been in business like for 6 odd years, and thousands of sensors live out there that's feeding into our AI platform. So we have quite a bit of experience doing this in various types of facilities, and we would like to see how we can help you if this is a fit for you guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. That was a lot of information. And again, to our audience, if you would like to ask a question, I do have several questions waiting already on the chat room, but if you have other questions, please use your chat feature. Before we get to the question and answer portion, Jim, would you like to comment on our panelist presentations today?
Thank you. Yes, I was very impressed. It's like what we've learned, and we've just learned a lot. And I'm very humbled by the fact that how much you've all had to be flexible and how you've had to pivot into these other ways of doing business. And it's just exceptional. I want to thank everybody for their great presentations.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And we do have several questions. If you would like to field one of those questions, panel, please raise your hand and I will call on you. So one of the questions that we have is, do the restroom indicators message when the batteries are low and need to be replaced?
I can take that. Yes, it does. It can not only monitor the things that it's monitoring, like occupancy and so on, it monitors itself as well, right? How well is it connected to the gateway, how much battery is left, and so on. So yes, we can send an alert when the battery is low.
Thank you, Junaith. Another question, if we could just go around the panel list here, is what percentage, and I know some of you hit on this in your presentation, but what percentage of staff you need to bring in for 25% occupancy?
I can go first. We're at about 75% of our staff, whereas there's some areas such as housekeeping that really stayed the same as a regular game day. In our concessions, there was a little bit of a decrease because we didn't open all of our concession stands, but you have to think that you still have the same amount of area, like ground area to cover. So you still need to have staff members in a lot of those spaces.
Yeah, I would echo those comments that you need the same number of staff. And even though you have less individuals possibly attending your event and in your building, their expectations are going to be higher in a lot of areas as well, because they know and they see there can be some of the few that are actually going out and participating in live events as a fan right now. So we always want to make sure that we're providing them the best services possible and the best experience possible. And that's across our security functions as well as our guest services function. We've been really seeing that I shared about 85% for those capacities, whether they be anywhere from 10 to 25% guest capacities.
Would anyone else like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I guess I'll add that, you know, although you might be required to have less staff in particular areas, you might be creating new staff positions to cover new initiatives. Like, you know, months before while we were planning, we didn't have a plan to have a whole staff dedicated to enforcing no tailgating and, you know, and in the parking lots, you know, so there's like 20, 30 people there. I mean, that we had the plan for after the fact. So, and then you realize the amount of work that goes into mask enforcement. So understanding how, you know, you have to try to have extra staff to help out with that too in various areas. So you might have a little bit lower staff, but you pretty much could be at full staff because of new positions you need to add depending on what your plan becomes.
Thank you, Anthony.
And then just to add on one additional thing to that is, in some cases, while you only may have a certain set number of positions you need to have filled, you have no idea what that game day, especially if your staff are going through screening, you want to make sure that you are kind of overstaffed so that you do have that buffer in the event of game day morning, one of your staff members has a temperature or doesn't pass the health screening or other things. So making sure you're planning for that as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Before we get to our last question, I did want to just make the announcement that if you are on this webinar and you missed a portion of it, or if you'd like to watch it again or even share it with someone else, it is available. It has been recorded and it will be available on www.servicescouts.com underneath their webinar tab. So this and our previous webinars will be available to you. That is one of the questions that was asked on our chat room. So the final question, unless we have any others, is how are you adjusting your budgets to be able to implement some of the products that you are installing throughout the venue? No fans, lost revenue, etc. We have heard so many stadiums like products, however, they don't have the money to do so, to purchase them. Just looking for insight on this. Okay, who would like to talk about money? Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, so it's tough. You know, the financial budgeting process has been blown up and redone multiple times since COVID started with us. I mean, the only encouragement, or I guess recommendations I could offer, is that there is funding through, you know, state organizations, city organizations. There are fund sources out there if you can search and find them. I know the state of Texas has had some opportunities, and I know IAVM, International Association of Venue Managers, out there lobbying on behalf of venues constantly to get the funding that they need from the senators and things that get those acts passed with Congress so that we can get funding to these venues across the country. So just stay plugged in and engage with your city officials, your county and state officials, and see what's out there. Ask the question. They don't know you need the money if you don't ask. So.
Very good point. Would anyone else like to chime in? Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. I know in Tampa, we had a CARES Act. Hillsborough County did give money and grants to both the Buccaneers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you're right. I think it's more at a governmental level where we're going to find those funds. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say before we wrap up today's program? We have about 7 minutes if you'd like to use it. If not, I will ask Jim to close us out with some final comments. Oh, Sarah has something.
I had one thing, a little bit of enlightenment I wanted to share with everyone. So one of the many hats I've been wearing over this quarantine is checking in on my grandparents. And so my grandmother called me this morning because her garage door would not open. So I ended up going over there in mask and sat with my grandfather distance while he's drinking his coffee and doing his puzzle. And one of the things that he said to me is like, Sarah, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game. And I started thinking about how that's applying to what we're doing. And there's so many different ways that you can go about handling this crisis. But it's really about how you're treating people and how you're keeping those people safe, and those personal interactions. That's really what's going to make the difference in the end. So just wanted to share that little bit of enlightenment from my granddaddy.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. And please thank him as well for contributing to today.
Susan, I did see one question, and Sarah was kind enough to share some feedback on the walkthrough metal detectors they're currently using. Mm-hmm. The question was specifically about some of the Evolve units or any recommendations. It gets very, very specific to each of your facility, your climate, all of that. I've been fortunate enough with the number of facilities that we work with to use a lot of those different products. So it says it's an anonymous attendee. So whoever that is, if you'd like to reach out with me, I'd be happy to have a candid conversation with you as a person who has zero stake in Evolve, Smith, Chea. It just happened to be the end user in a lot of different avenues. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, and then we did have a question for Sarah. What platform do you use to email the video virtual briefings to your staff?
So we've been using SkyPrep as our program that we're able to enroll our team members in that.
Okay, fantastic. And then one other person asks, please ask the panelists, what are the 3 most important areas of the stadium that fans want to see a change due to COVID?
I'd say the entry. They don't want to see lines at the entry. They want to see cleaning people throughout the venue. And the other biggest thing is they actually want to see some of the mask policy reminders and enforcement. This is one of our signs that we have, especially in the seating bowl. We do get conflicting messages on, some people think we enforce it too much, some people think we don't enforce it. So there's got to be some middle ground, but making sure you're at least putting the effort out there, and there are visible things and visual reminders that I think that the fans have really appreciated.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay. All right, Jim, how about we drive it home? And this has been a great and insightful panel. Thank you all so very, very much. It's always wonderful working with all of you. And again, for those who are still on, if you'd like to see this or share it with someone else, it will be on servicescouts.com. So Jim, if you'd like to close us out, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Susan, and wonderful job. Really appreciate it. I want to wish you and all the panelists, thank them and wish them all the best this Thanksgiving holiday. If you have an interest in putting another panelist group together, if you're interested in being a panelist, reach out to us. Me and my team is going to be reaching out to everyone that participated in this and provide you a copy of this, as well as answer all these questions and give you as much feedback and help as you can. This has been really enlightening, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.